The heat in Los Angeles doesn't leave when the sun goes down. It just settles into the pavement, rising up to choke you while you're stuck in traffic on the 405. It was a Thursday in September. I was 23, working as a mobile notary. It's a gig economy job that sounds official, but is mostly just driving to Starbucks or hospital beds to watch people sign papers they haven't read. I made $50 a pop, maybe 75 for a rush job. This one was a rush job, 11 p.m., Laurel Canyon. The address led me up those winding narrow roads where the cell service dies, and the houses hang off the cliffs like expensive accidents waiting to happen. It was a modern place. I parked my car next to a pristine vintage Mercedes. I remember checking my reflection in the rearview mirror, straightening my tie. I looked young, too young to be handling loan documents for a property worth $5 million. I grabbed my leather satchel, my shield, my badge of authority, and walked to the door. I buzzed and the door cracked open automatically. I knocked anyway. "Hello? Notary?" "In here," a woman's voice called out. I pushed the door open. A woman was sitting on a white boucle sofa. She was older than me, maybe early 30s. A man stood by the glass wall, his back to me, staring out at the city. Hi, I'm Leo, from 24 Hour Signings." The woman, who the paperwork identified as Mrs. Callister, smiled. "Leo, you look like a Leo. Doesn't he look like a Leo, Tom?" The man turned. He was handsome. He held a tumbler of dark liquid. He looked at me with an intensity that made the hair on my arm stand up. "He looks pathetic," Tom said. I have the loan modification documents," I said, my voice sounding thin in the big room. I moved toward the coffee table, trying to keep it professional. "If we can clear a space here, I can walk you through the signature points. It should only take about 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Mrs. Callister said. She stood up. She was taller than I expected. She walked toward me, not stopping until she was uncomfortably close. I could smell her expensive perfume. She smelled great. "What's the rush, Leo? Do you have a hot date?" No, ma'am. It's just late, you know?" "Don't call me ma'am. It makes me feel ancient. Call me Elise." "Okay, Elise, if we could just..." "Drink?" Tom asked. He was suddenly beside me. I hadn't heard him move across the thick rug. "No, thank you. I'm driving." "One drink won't kill you," Tom said. He pressed the cold glass against my hand. I didn't take it, so he just held it there, against my knuckles. The condensation ran down my skin. "Come on, it's a celebration. We're refinancing, saving a fortune. Don't be rude, Leo." I took the glass. I didn't drink it. I set it down on the coffee table, right next to where I was laying out the stack of papers. "I need your IDs," I said, uncapping my blue pen. "Driver's licenses or passports." Elise sat back down, but she didn't look at the papers. She looked at my hands. "You have nice hands. Very delicate. Are you an artist?" "No, I'm a notary." "No, that's what you do," she said. "But what are you?" "I'm the guy who needs you to sign this deed of trust so I can go home," I said, trying to laugh it off. "He's pathetic, but he's got a spine, Elise. I told you." "We'll see," she said. IDs, please," I repeated. "I left my purse in the bedroom. Why don't you come get it?" Elise said. I can wait here." "I don't think you understand," Tom said. He moved behind the sofa, placing his hands on Elise's shoulders, his fingers digging into her skin. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. "We pay for a service. We expect full service." "My service is witnessing signatures," I said. I started to put the papers back in my bag. "If you guys aren't ready, I can mark this as a non-signing and come back tomorrow." "You're not leaving," Tom said. It wasn't a shout. It was a statement of fact. I froze. "Excuse me?" "You're not leaving until we're done," Elise said. She stood up again and walked around the coffee table. She circled me. I stood still, clutching my bag. "Look, I don't know what you guys are into, but..." I said. What are we into, Leo? Tell us what you think we're into. I'm leaving. I turned to walk toward the door. Tom stepped in my path. He wasn't huge, but he was solid, and he had that heavy, anchored stance of someone who enjoys violence. Sit down, Tom said. Get out of my way. Tom shoved me hard. I stumbled back as my calves hit the coffee table and fell onto the sofa. The glass of scotch spilled, running over the papers. Now look what you did, Elise said, her voice mocking. She sat down next to me. Please, I said. My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. I just want to go. We know, Tom said. He loomed over us. That's what makes it fun. The wanting. We're going to play a game, Elise said. She moved her hand up my thigh. I tried to push her away, but Tom grabbed my wrist. He twisted it hard, forcing my arm behind my back. Pain shot up my shoulder. Ow, stop! What are you doing? I yelled. Shh, Elise whispered. This game is called Intruder. Have you played it? Let me go! You broke in. You broke in to steal our money, but you found us, and you didn't know what to do. What are you talking about? I'm the notary! I screamed. It was a heavy thudding slap that rattled my teeth and made my vision swim. I tasted copper. Wrong line. You're the intruder. Say it. I gasped for air, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked at the door. It seemed miles away. We were high up in the hills, isolated. Say it, Elise commanded. She grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at her. Her eyes were terrifying, vacant of empathy. Say I'm the intruder. I'm the intruder, I whispered. And what are you going to do to me, Mr. Intruder? Are you going to hurt me? No, I sobbed. Yes, you are, Tom hissed. He tightened the grip on my wrist until I thought the bone would snap. Tell her you're going to hurt her. Make her believe it. I can't. Do it or you don't leave this room, Tom said. He leaned down, his face inches from mine. I could see the broken veins in his nose. I have a gun in the nightstand, Leo. If I shoot you right now, I tell the police you attacked my wife. You're young, broke, driving a car. Who do you think they'll believe? The wealthy couple in the hills or the crazy kid? The horror of it washed over me. He was right. In that zip code, the narrative belonged to them. Tell her, Tom ordered. I looked at Elise. She was waiting, breathless, her lips parted. She wasn't scared. She was aroused by the fear. My fear. They were feeding off it. I'm going to hurt you, I stammered. Oh, really? How, Leo? Tell me how. I closed my eyes. Tears leaked down. I'm going to tie you up. Yes, and then? And then I'm going to take what I want. Tom released my wrist. I slumped forward, but Elise caught me. She wrapped her arms around me, pulling my head onto her shoulder. It was a grotesque parody of comfort. She ran her fingers through my hair. Good boy, she whispered. See, that wasn't so hard. Is that it? I asked, my voice muffled against her silk dress. Can I go? This isn't over, Tom said. He walked over to the wet bar and poured himself another drink. Now, you have to beg. What? The intruder gets caught, Elise explained. She pushed me back so she could look at me again. The husband comes home, he catches you, and now you have to beg for your life. I looked at Tom. He was smiling. He clearly enjoyed this part the most, the power. Now get on your knees, Tom said. I hesitated. Knees! He roared, slamming his hand against the bar. I slid off the sofa onto the thick white rug. The wool scratched my knees. I clasped my hands together. I was shaking so hard I could barely keep myself upright. Please don't kill me. Convince me. You sound like you're reading a menu. Cry for me, Leo. I am crying. Mean it. Tell me about your life. Tell me why you deserve to exist. They were hollowing me out. They wanted my dignity, my history, my pathetic reality to serve as their evening entertainment. I have a mom. She's sick. I pay her rent. If I die, she goes to a home. Please, I just want to work. I'm nobody. I babbled. I told them about my student loans. I told them about the girl who broke up with me last month. I poured out every insecurity, every ounce of shame I carried, just to satisfy the glint in their eyes. Elise watched me with a small, satisfied smile. She was just watching, like she was watching a gripping documentary. When I finally ran out of words, when I was just heaving breaths and snot on their expensive rug, silence fell over the room. Tom finished his drink. He set the glass down. Cut, he said softly. The tension vanished from his shoulders. He rolled his neck. Elise stood up and smoothed her dress. That was visceral, she said. She looked at me, but the intensity was gone. Now she just looked at me like I was the pool boy. You have raw talent, Leo. I stayed on my knees, unable to process the shift. What? The documents, Tom said, pointing to the soggy mess on the table. They're ruined. Do you have spares? Yeah, in the car. Go get them, and wash your face. You look a mess, Tom said. I stared at them. They were resetting. They were going back to being the clients. The game was over. They had finished their meal. I stood up. My legs felt like water. I grabbed my bag. I need to go to my car, I said. Hurry back. I want to get this signed before midnight, Elise called out. I walked to the door. I didn't run. I couldn't. My body was in shock. I opened the heavy wooden door and stepped out into the humid night air. I walked to my car. I opened the door and got in. I locked it. I sat there for a moment, staring at the front door of the house. It was still open, a rectangle of warm light spilling onto the driveway. I started the engine. I didn't go back in with the spare papers. I put the car in reverse. As I backed down, I saw them. They were standing in the window, side by side. They were watching me leave. They didn't look angry. They looked content. I drove down the canyon road too fast. I nearly clipped a guardrail on a hairpin turn. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. I didn't go home. I drove to a 24-hour diner in Hollywood. I went into the bathroom and scrubbed my face with the gritty pink soap until my skin was raw. I looked in the mirror. The red mark from Tom's hand was still fading on my cheek. I looked different. I sat in a booth and ordered coffee. I sat there until the sun came up, watching the street sweepers clean the grime off the boulevard. I never reported them. What would I say? That they made me act? That they made me beg? There was no gun. Not really. Just the threat of it. Just the implication. A week later, I got a notification from the signing service. The job had been reassigned to another notary. But then, a month later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a bottle of the same expensive scotch Tom had been drinking, and a note, written on thick cream-colored cardstock in elegant cursive. You were the best we've had in years. T&E.
The last stop on our list was Berlin. My friend Emma and I had pressed pause on our 9-to-5 lives about 6 months earlier. We had been drifting through Europe since then, sightseeing, long walks, flirting with cute guys that we'd never see again. It was fun, but our savings were bleeding out fast, and reality was calling us back to California. We booked the cheapest hostel that we could find on the outskirts of Berlin. 2 beds in a 6-bed dorm. Neither of us cared. We just needed a place to sleep for 2 nights before our flight home. When we walked into the room, 3 beds were already taken. A Spanish couple whispered to each other in one corner, their backpacks tangled together. The last bed belonged to a woman sitting upright on her mattress, hands folded neatly in her lap. She was completely still. She looked middle-aged, thin, modestly dressed. Her face was pale, almost waxy, with deep shadows under her eyes. She wasn't scrolling on her phone or unpacking. She wasn't even blinking much. She was staring directly at the door. "Hi," Emma said softly. "We're your new roommates." Nothing. The woman didn't turn her head, didn't nod, didn't acknowledge us at all. Emma glanced at me. I shrugged. Travelers could be weird. Maybe she didn't speak English. Maybe she was exhausted. Maybe she just wanted to be left alone. Well, as we unpacked, Emma struck up a conversation with the Spanish couple. They had just eloped and were riding the high of it, glowing and loud in that way newlyweds are. Before bed, Emma mentioned casually that the woman's name was Agatha. That's what the couple had said after she'd asked. That night, Agatha didn't sleep. I woke up several times for water, for the heat, for Emma's snoring. Each time, Agatha was sitting in the exact same position, eyes locked on the door. She didn't react when the couple came back late and crawled into bed. She didn't flinch when someone slammed a door down the hallway. She didn't move when Emma got up to use the bathroom. "Agatha?" I whispered once, unsure why I was even trying. No response. By morning, the Spanish couple packed up early and left with hugs and laughter. Agatha was still there, still silent, still watching the door. It wasn't until that afternoon, after the room emptied and the hallway went quiet, that she finally spoke. "You're American," she said suddenly. Her voice made me jump. "Yes," Emma replied. "California." Agatha exhaled, slow and shaky. "Good." She turned toward us for the first time. Up close, she looked worse. "I didn't tell you before because I couldn't. Too many ears." Emma and I exchanged a glance. "My ex-husband is looking for me. He wants my savings. Everything I have left." She told us she was German, born and raised, but had been moving hostels across Berlin for weeks. Her ex knew her habits, knew her old friends, knew where she banked. "He's violent, and desperate people don't scare easily." She lifted her eyes to the window, and that's when Emma stiffened. "Wait," she whispered. "Did you see that?" A shadow moved outside, slow, deliberate. Before either of us could react, a face appeared at the glass. A man, wild-eyed, unshaven, pressed his palm against the window and then smiled. Banging came next. The glass rattled violently. "Call the police!" I shouted. Agatha didn't scream. She reached into her bag and pulled out a gun. "I hoped it wouldn't come to this," she said, hands trembling but steadying. "But I won't run anymore." The man began trying to force the window open, grunting with effort. Emma was already on the phone, crying as she gave the address. "Open the door!" the man yelled in German. "Agatha, you owe me!" The window cracked. Then sirens. Red and blue lights flooded the room. The man froze, then tried to flee. He didn't make it far. We watched from the doorway as officers tackled him in the courtyard below. He lunged at one of them and was tased immediately, collapsing with a scream. The police took him away. They told us later that he had been stalking her for months. That night, none of us slept. The next morning, Emma and I hugged Agatha goodbye. Our flight was leaving. She thanked us over and over. We exchanged numbers. She told us she'd be okay now. For a couple of months, we stayed in touch. Short texts, check-ins. She sent photos of her cat, complained about the weather. Then, one day, she stopped replying. Weeks passed. Then months. I still think about her sometimes. Wonder if she's safe. Wonder if she found peace. Berlin was supposed to be our last stop. It turned out to be the one I'll never forget. My name is Emma, and looking back, that whole mess with the washer still gives me chills. It was the summer of 2023, right in the thick of a brutal heat wave in Austin, Texas. I'd been living in this cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the east side for about 3 years. Nothing fancy, but it had those precious washer and dryer hookups that made life a hell of a lot easier. Laundry day without dragging baskets to a laundromat? Bliss. But my lease was up, and I'd snagged a cheaper spot downtown, closer to my job. The catch? No hookups. So, out went the appliances. I figured Craigslist was the way to go. Quick cash, no hassle. I posted the ad on a Tuesday morning. Kenmore washer and dryer set. Gently used. $300 for both, or $150 each. Sold as is. Pickup only. Photos showed them sparkling clean, stacked in my utility closet. Responses flooded in within hours. First up was the dryer guy. His text popped up around noon. "Hey, is the dryer still available? I'm interested for my daughter. She's heading to UT in the fall." I replied, "Yep, it's yours if you can pick it up today. $150 firm." "Sounds good. Can I come by at 4? "Perfect. Address is 456 Oakwood Lane, apartment 204. He showed up right on time. A middle-aged dad type. His name was Mike. "Thanks for holding it," he said, shaking my hand firmly, but not too hard. "My girl, Patricia, she's excited about her first dorm, but laundry's going to be a nightmare without this." I smiled, feeling that warm fuzzies vibe. "No problem. I remember college. Quarters for the machines add up quick. Want help loading?" "Nah, I got it. But if you could guide me to the closet?" We chatted as he maneuvered it out. He told me about Patricia majoring in biology, how proud he was. I shared a bit about my move, the excitement of a fresh start. He handed over the cash, crisp bills, and waved as he drove off. "Take care, Emma." "You too, Mike. Tell Patricia good luck." That was it. Smooth as butter. I pocketed the money and felt like a pro at this selling gig. The washer was a different beast. Later that afternoon, another text. "Washer still there? What's the lowest you'll go?" I haggled back. $150 is listed. It's in great shape. Works fine. $120? No, $150. Cash only. Fine. Can pick up tomorrow evening? We settled on 6 p.m. I didn't think much of it. Guy seemed straightforward, if a bit pushy. The next day dragged. I was packing the last boxes, sweating. Most of my stuff was already at the new place. A sleek studio with killer views, but yeah, no laundry setup. I'd been crashing on an air mattress back at the old apartment, using the Wi-Fi until the new one kicked in. It was lonely, echoing with emptiness, but I blasted podcasts to fill the silence. He was late. Showed up at 8:30 when the sun was dipping low. His truck pulled up. 4 guys piled out of it, all crammed in like sardines. Big dudes, muscular arms, work boots thudding on the pavement. The leader, I'll call him Rick, though he never gave me a name. "You're Emma?" he grunted, eyeing the door. "Yeah, washer's inside. You got the cash?" He nodded, but his eyes flicked around like he was sizing up more than the appliance. Let's see it first." I led them in, feeling a twinge of unease. The apartment was bare. Air mattress deflated in the corner, a lone lamp casting shadows. They inspected the washer, plugging it in, running a quick cycle. It hummed to life, no issues. "All right, but 120. It's older than I thought." I crossed my arms. Ad said 150 and it's working. Take it or leave it. He grumbled, pulled out a wad of bills, counted them slowly like he was doing me a favor. "Fine. Boys, load it up." They hauled it out, tilting it at this precarious 30-degree angle against the glass rack. No straps, just leaning there like it might slide off any second. I bit my tongue. None of my business now. Rick climbed back in the truck, the others squeezing in beside him. "Thanks," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. "Drive safe," I said, locking the door behind them. Relief washed over me. Done. But that night, around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Washer ain't working. Leaking everywhere. Want my money back." My stomach dropped. I texted back, "Sold as is, like the ad said. It was fine when you left." "You scammed me." "I didn't. Maybe check how you transported it. Tilted like that could have messed it up." No response for a bit. Then, "Give me the money or else." I blocked the number, heart racing. But the next day, calls started from different lines. Voicemails. "You think you can rip me off? I'll find you, Emma." Cussing. Threats. Stuff about what he'd do if he saw me. "I'm gonna bash your skull in, you lying woman." I saved them all, hands shaking. My friend Jess called that evening. "Emma, you okay? You sound freaked." I spilled it. "This guy's harassing me over a damn washer. Says it's broken, but I know he wrecked it. Now, death threats? What the hell?" "Block him and report to the cops. Don't engage." "I tried. New numbers keep coming." "Stay safe. Want me to come over?" "Nah, I'm fine. Just venting." But I wasn't. 2 nights later, 3 a.m., banging on the door. Loud, furious. "Open up! I know you're in there! Ha!" Voices overlapping, laughing cruelly. "Ha! Come out, babe! We got business!" I bolted upright on the air mattress, phone in hand, dialing 911, but hesitating. Second floor. No balcony access. Deadbolt locked. I huddled in the bedroom, lights off, listening as they pounded for what felt like forever. 15 minutes of yelling. "We'll burn this place down with you in it! Owes me!" Finally, tires screeched away. I didn't sleep. Called the police the next morning. "Ma'am, without a plate or ID, it's hard. File a report, get a restraining order if you can ID him." "But he knows my old address." "Change your number. Stay vigilant." Useless. I packed the last bits that day. Lamp, air mattress, random junk, and bolted to the new apartment. Turned in the keys, didn't look back. But the harassment didn't stop. For 2 months, random numbers. "Dead woman walking. I'll do whatever I want to you and later dump your body." Voicemails so vile, I deleted them after saving screenshots. I changed my number, finally, after Jess insisted. "Emma, this is stalking," she said over coffee at my new place. "You can't ignore it." "I know, but what if he finds me here?" "Get a gun? Pepper spray at least." I laughed bitterly. From a designer to armed recluse. Great. But I did. Bought mace, installed a Ring camera. Life goes on, but damn, I'll never forget Rick's voice through that door. Lesson learned the hard way.
My name is Jessica. I always thought I would be some big success, until I got laid off from my high-paying IT job and was forced to work minimum wage at my sister's shop. My old job accused me of stealing from them, which was totally not true. But they did everything they could to label me a liar and badmouth me to every other business in the city. I was blacklisted as a thief by every employer in town, so I had to ask my sister for help. Joan was 2 years younger than me, and she owned a boutique clothing shop near the university campus. Growing up, no one ever expected Joan to be the successful one. I was the sister who got good grades and worked all the time and had big plans for the future. Joan, meanwhile, was a party girl. The fact that I now had to work for her was really tough for me to accept, especially after how unfairly I was when I got fired from my old job. To make matters worse, Joan was a terrible boss. She paid me barely enough to live on and forced me to take extra shifts whenever her other employees called in sick. I worked with a bunch of idiot teenagers, so they called in sick a lot. I needed money, so of course I took on as many shifts as I could. But it really felt like I was working all the time for very little pay. One weekend, I was planning to go on a blind date with a guy named Jim. This was my first date in months, and I was really looking forward to it. But as I was getting ready, Joan called me to say that I had to come into work for the night shift. Her shop usually closed at 9, but whenever we had football games at the nearby campus, she extended the hours until 1 in the morning. She thought she'd got more foot traffic from drunk college students who might want to buy something, but it almost never worked out that way. Usually, I'd just be alone in the shop waiting for customers who never came. I tried to tell her no. This date meant a lot to me and I didn't want to cancel on him. Besides, she had a couple other employees who needed the hours. Joan didn't care. She told me that if I didn't come into work, she'd cut my hours way back and give my extra shifts to her better employees. She literally said that. Better employees. Like I was some kind of slacker for wanting a night off. Without any other option, I told her I'd work the night shift. Then I texted Jim with a very long apology explaining my situation. We'd only communicated by text before, so I thought it would be a little awkward to call him up just to cancel on him. He texted me a one-word response. Okay. That night, I showed up at Joan's store and told my coworker Michael that he could leave. He looked at me, obviously grateful that I was doing the night shift instead of him, and then hurried off. For the next hour, I stood at the counter and waited for customers to come in. No one did. I was bored and angry. I scrolled through my phone and saw photos on Instagram of Joan dancing at some club. She looked like she was having the time of her life. Another hour passed and I still didn't have any customers. I wondered if I could just close up shop early and hope that Joan wouldn't check the security cameras. But I didn't want to risk it. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a man's voice say, "Hello, Jessica." I practically jumped out of my skin. Someone had walked inside without me noticing, and now he was standing right behind me. I spun around and ended up face to face with Jim, the guy I had to cancel on. "What are you doing here?" I asked. He wasn't as handsome as his pictures, but I could tell it was the same guy. He leaned pretty close to me, smirking, and said, "I wanted to surprise you." "Well, you definitely did." I backed away from him. The way he just appeared like that, it was a little weird. "I'm sorry about canceling, but as you can see, I'm on the clock." "This is where you work," he said. "Nice place." "Uh-huh," I muttered. He kept wandering around the store, sliding his fingertips over all the hanging shirts and dresses. I really wanted him to leave. He was freaking me out. He walked to the front door, and for a second, it looked like he was going to walk away. But instead, he clicked the deadbolt shut, locking us both inside. Then he turned back toward me. "You shouldn't have canceled on me." I apologized again, but he just glared. "I bought you flowers," he shouted. "I made reservations. I shaved." He charged right at me, pure anger in his eyes. "And you texted me to cancel? You didn't even care enough to call?" I looked around. The only exit was in the front. There weren't even any windows for me to climb out. There was a bathroom in the back, so maybe I would run in there and lock myself in. Or I could fight him off. He dove over the counter and reached for me. His fingers tore at my shirt, but I was able to jump back before he could grab me. I ran toward the door, but before I could unlatch the deadbolt, he reached me again. This time, he grabbed my hair and pulled, hard. I felt my body fly backwards, right on top of one of the displays. Wood creaked below me as the display shattered under my weight and dropped me to the floor. Pain shot through my back as I landed on some kind of box hidden under the display. As Jim lumbered closer, I looked down at the box I'd landed on. It was a microwave-sized metal safe. Normally, it would be too heavy for me to pick up easily, but I was running on adrenaline. Plus, it was the only real weapon I had. Just as Jim reached me, I picked up the safe and smashed it into his face. Just one strike. He instantly fell to the ground, unconscious. As Jim lay bleeding on the ground, I looked down at the safe in my hands, grateful that it saved my life. That's when I noticed the logo on the bottom of the safe. It was the same logo as my old company. It took me a second to put all the pieces together until I realized Joan had stole from my old job and blamed me for it. That's how I got fired. That's how she was able to afford her own business. My life was miserable and hers was fantastic because she'd blame me for a crime she'd done. And I never would have found out if this psycho hadn't come after me. I called 911 and told them to come over. They'd see what happened on the security tape, and they'd also find the stolen safe that I'd used as a weapon. Thank God I'd been forced into working the night shift. That one crazy night changed my life forever.